Hi everyone, I'm Siddha. I'm from Bombay Shaving Company. Bombay Shaving Company is a hair management brand. We would like to call ourselves that whatever you do with your hair is your business. When you choose to remove it, it's our business. So that's the business we are in. We are about 5 to 6 years old as a brand. We started as a men's brand. We had our first flagship 6-part system shaving system where we did a lot of analysis on how men really shave and how to make the shaving experience innovative, joyful. So instead of adding more blades, we added more joy. So that's where we started. During COVID, an interesting thing happened. The women in the company were like, we can't go to salons. We make so many hair management products for men. Let's do something for women. So that's when the women's business started. The women's business is about a year and a half old, and within 1 year, it's 20% of the overall business. The overall vision for us is to own hair removal end-to-end, men, women, everything in between. So that's us. Would love to talk about FMCG, hair removal in general, and category trends in this space.
Hey everyone, this is Jugal. I'm the founder of Bombay Trooper. Bombay Trooper I started in 2013 back when I used to work as a web developer, and I was really fascinated with the idea of having your own e-commerce store and try out basically explore different curiosities that I had in marketing, tech, building websites, which is what I used to do, building brands. We originally started as a t-shirt company, but then eventually, as I explored my other interests, we moved to a full-fledged fashion house, and right now we like to call ourselves as travel-inspired fashion. And when you say travel-inspired, it's basically everything got to do with outdoors, going out into the nature, and that's something we highlight very much in the last few years. Is you can't you can't love nature without caring about it. So that's when we shifted towards more sustainable, eco-friendly clothing option. And since then, we have just been trying to introduce sustainable alternatives to your everyday lifestyle in apparel and accessories.
Can I confirm that you are wearing clothes from Bombay?
Yes, I am. The shorts that the gentleman commented on, these are actually these are recycled shorts made from recycling the PET bottles that we acquire from ocean waste. We make shorts out of it, and just that way we contribute our little bit into. All right, check it out.
Hi guys, this is Venkat Nod. I'm moderating the session, so I'll keep it short. But Vinculum is a global multi-channel order management and fulfillment platform. We work with D2C brands, household brands which are going omni-channel, and with every part of the ecosystem practically, marketplaces, 3PLs, aggregators, and distributors. So without much ado, I'll pass it. But we do work with 350 plus well-known brands in the market.
Thanks, Venkat. I'm Pavan. I look at the marketplace cross-border trade business for eBay in India. Our focus purely has been over the last decade and a half to kind of look at how do we take Indian products, Indian brands to global markets. I obviously would want to see how I could get all of the panelists onto eBay as a marketplace. I think it's definitely super interesting to see the kind of brands, the kind of products that these founders have come up with, and really look forward to a great discussion.
Hi, I'm Pallavi Desai. I'm one of the founders of Creatures of Habit. We're a sustainable fashion brand, and we exist in the Western casual space. We use all natural fabrics to create, clothes that are the foundation of any modern wardrobe.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Rishika, and I'm the co-founder of Talisman. We are an e-commerce jewelry brand. Our USP is that we offer jewelry in precious metals, so it's sterling silver with semi-precious gemstones. We have a purely online presence at the moment. I think what differentiates us, and the reason I bring this up is because we get asked a lot, is our design philosophy. So we are out to take a modern take on silver jewelry. I think the category that we're in is very exciting because it's very competitive. We founded 3 years ago, and it's been a very interesting journey ever since. The first year and a half were all lessons learned. And it's an honor to be here today and sharing the platform with such exciting panelists. And I hope that we're able to give you some insights today. And I'd like to end by pointing out that I too am modeling my jewelry like Jugal here. So happy to, well, I don't know if you can zoom in, but I'm happy to come and give you guys a closer look. So thank you.
Awesome. Pallavi, can I confirm that you're wearing your products as well?
Yeah, I'm actually wearing my t-shirt.
Oh, yeah, sorry, that's the one. Yeah, see, everyone is wearing products from the brand that they represent. So we'll start with that, yeah? Okay, no, great. So maybe we'll start with you in terms of who is your target customer, if I may ask, and how easy or difficult has it been post-COVID?
Sure.
So what disruptions have you seen in the market?
Absolutely. Our target customer, to answer your first half, is the modern woman, aged anywhere between 25 to 40. For us, it's a working woman from metro or tier 1 cities. Anyone who kind of has their own disposable income, and the idea for us is to tap into as often as you would think about changing your outfit, why not your jewelry as well? So for us, it's creating that experience for that target audience. For us, COVID, I think, was a good turning point, as it was for many brands, here in the room today. COVID gave us the opportunity to kind of leverage what the customer was looking for and turn things around. And one of the major transformation that I personally felt was that we saw a shift in customers moving away from traditional marketplaces. And moving from traditional marketplaces and more towards the D2C brands directly. So we saw a lot of organic traffic coming in, and I think that worked really well for us. We also saw a shift in the customer mindset wherein they were looking for more, because they were coming directly to your website. Now, they wanted a more personalized experience. They were looking for customization, and in a category like jewelry, that obviously, is very important. When you were able to cater to that, I think that was a turnaround for us.
Okay, now you are into, on the category itself, you do both jewelry and gemstones.
So our jewelry is all in precious metal, so we're only in sterling silver. And the reason we introduced gemstones was because we wanted to elevate the quality of the jewelry, because I feel our audience today is very quality conscious and they still want it at an affordable price. So our strength, because we control manufacturing, we were able to introduce semi-precious gemstones that you would typically not find in fashion jewelry. So all our jewelry is a mix of sterling silver and semi-precious gemstones.
And did you see people ordering online? Has it increased significantly?
Absolutely. I think when we started 3 years ago, I think the market awareness was quite low. That was one of our major challenges, where we had to work to educate the customer, as to why precious metal and what's the difference. So that was one of our biggest challenges when we entered the space. Today, obviously, like I said earlier, it's a very competitive space, and that's what makes it exciting, because now the customer is more aware. One of the challenges still remains with tier 2 cities, where customers still need to be educated about, like you said, why semi-precious gemstones, how does that add value? So that is something that we, constantly weave into the storyline of the brand, and it's something that we're working on to put out there. Yeah.
And you deliver pan-India?
Yes, we're across India. Yes.
And you're not international at this point?
Not yet.
Okay,
Yeah.
fair. We'll come to that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we'll go with yourself, and let's go with Pallavi next. So, how has been your journey in terms of pre-COVID versus post-COVID?
So actually, we launched only in
And
Feb
how do you come
2020.
up with this whole concept?
So we actually launched only in Feb 2020.
Okay.
So I don't know how much pre-COVID, post-COVID we really had. An
Fair enough. You
experience
can
of.
be a consumer pre-COVID.
So definitely, I think with COVID, there was a casualization, like we were discussing, right? Like your jeans weren't okay earlier, and now they are. So
No, I think your story would be interesting for people to know as why you started the category you're in.
sure.
Yeah,
So I was studying in Barcelona with my co-founder. Both of us were doing our MBA together. And then when we moved back to India, we weren't able to find everyday clothes to wear. The office spaces had changed. And I worked in a design house, and we were supposed to dress casually. But there weren't too many brands catering to this casual wear. And, I think about a year in, both of us decided to quit our jobs and start a casual wear brand. And I think with the oncoming of COVID, we suddenly were the only people in the market, talking about comfort and clothing together. Usually when you think of clothing, it's high fashion, trends, things like that. But we focused on comfort first and using really high quality
And
fabrics.
who is your target segment is all the young?
No, not at all actually.
Okay, let's hear that.
Yeah, so I think our target audience starts from 25 and goes up to about 65. It's
65?
anyone- Yeah,
Yeah, 65 young.
absolutely.
So that's cool. That's really cool. So, and you're seeing serious traction on your own website
Yeah, we're
versus
actually,
marketplaces. What would be the split of revenues there?
so currently we're only selling through our own website.
Only on your website.
Yeah,
Okay, and no marketplaces as
no
on
marketplaces yet.
there. Okay, interesting. Okay, so do you see that as an opportunity, or you're building the brand? That's why you don't want to be on the marketplaces.
No, definitely, we do want to move into marketplaces, but actually both of us don't come from, a background in apparel. So the last 2 years have been a learning experience for us. We've, gotten into manufacturing. We own our own manufacturing. So I think we just want to learn before we really lose that control and, get into marketplaces.
So may you grow 100x.
Fingers crossed.
But tell me something else. This is straight from college.
Yeah, straight. Right after the MBA, like I said, I got a job for about
So that's
6 months.
another message for everyone, right? You don't need work experience to start.
I mean, I did have 2 years work experience before that, but yeah, pretty much.
Okay, cool. So Jugal, you're going to wait. We're going to go with the ladies first. So we're going to go with Siddha. So Siddha, same question for you. From a category perspective, just walk us through pre-COVID versus post-COVID, and who is your ideal customer? What's happening?
Got it. So it's interesting because the habits of women in hair removal versus men is very different. For men, it's fairly functional. For women, it almost transcends into the beauty space because the biggest delta creator, before you do anything, right? Before you put on makeup, before you put on skincare, anything, you first manage the hair on your body, top to toe, right? So that way, it's a beauty space for us. The target audience is the 18 to 35 year young spectrum right now, 18 to 40, if you would like to stretch it, who individuals who are convenience seeking, who are the women out there. So if I have to categorize into cohorts, they would be the 30-minute, under 30-minute recipe seekers. Like these are the kind of searches they would make, right? Or they would be fashion, makeup, skincare enthusiasts. This is the space that the women we target fall into. And if I have to look at behaviors within hair removal, there are definitely subcategory nuances. Like the older part of this category is more into traditional hair removal, so they are more comfortable with salons, etc. But women who've just entered into hair removal age, 18 and so on, they are very they don't take status quo as, okay, if you've said it, this is the right thing to do, right? For example, questioning different methods of hair removal, choosing their own, and who like to own hair removal from services to in-home to portable. That is the journey that we anticipate women to go into, and that's the journey we are here to facilitate.
Okay, and from a presence perspective, again, offline versus online, what would be the percentages?
So we're an omni-channel business. So within online, we have almost a 60-40 online, 60 to 70% online, rest offline split. And of course, online is comprised of
And
both
you're
marketplaces.
present in all the salons across the country as well? Or
No,
is that-
actually, we are a prod. So India is a very different hair removal market. There are services as well as there are products.
correct.
We participate in products as of now.
I understand, but do
Yeah.
you partner with some of the
For the men's
service
business,
providers?
yes, because it complements each other. For example, men shave, women will shave versus wax. So it's a competitor in that sense in a salon. So
Okay.
from a product perspective, it
So
Yeah.
interesting. Anyway, I'll come back to
Yeah.
you and some of the service providers, how it works. But
absolutely.
Jugal, I don't want to keep you waiting.
Yeah.
So same question for you.
Yeah.
In the category, what have you seen before COVID and post-COVID? Ideal customer, and offline versus online, what is the split of revenues?
Okay, so see, my ideal customer, I define it in a very precise manner. It's anybody who has traveled in the last 3 years,
Anyone who has traveled.
anywhere.
In the last 3 years, you're really limiting it. 2 years limiting, 3 years maybe is big.
That's why I had to add another year, right? Because see, we are mainly into sustainable materials and sustainable lifestyle, right? So I'm just generally assuming that somebody who's traveled is also a little bit aware of, making your little everyday lifestyle changes, be it in apparel, accessories, and whatever you use. Just being that conscious consumer, that's basically my target, right? And to your second question about pre and post COVID, so like Pallavi mentioned, it's suddenly comfort clothing became more relevant. We had this line of products with basically lounge pants that we were selling, and somehow it had some friction when we were trying to get the message out there. But as soon as the lockdown came, all we did was we changed our communication. We ran this campaign called "Your Work from Home Outfit," and that just clicked, and people just started relating to it. Like, yes, I do want something that's, like average consumer just became chill. And when I say chill, it's not just in what they want, but how they behave. Suddenly, slow commerce was okay. Like people were saying, chalega, after 2 weeks you deliver, there's no rush. That's basically what, the customer has
No, well,
changed
the
into.
interesting thing is that that's a line which should work for a lot of people even now. Though people are getting back to office now. So, yeah, but I think it's a beautiful line.
But see, I'm starting the trend, right? You can, be comfortable, wear chill clothes and just go out there.
No, actually, we had an investor who had a work from home outfit comeback day. So which means everybody came in the work from home outfit
That's
and
amazing.
worked in the office,
That's great.
including bringing their pets and all that. So it was actually quite interesting.
That's awesome.
So, sorry, come back to the third question, online versus offline. It's all online?
Yeah, 100% online.
100% online.
Yeah.
And between website and marketplaces?
95% is my own website. 5% is marketplaces, which I just use it on and off, if in case I want to liquidate some slow-moving stocks, that's when I actually use marketplaces. Otherwise, I don't.
Okay. So one of the techniques people use, of course, is that you pick certain SKUs and promote it on marketplaces
You
more.
could use it as a customer acquisition channel.
Correct,
Right? With
correct.
whatever relevant category, you just make sure your product shows up there, and then you try to resell them
And especially what you speak in terms of recycled products and socially eco-aware customers. Have you thought of building a community around it?
We do actually. We use our Instagram account as purely a community of people who love travel and nature. So that's, if you check our Instagram, that's basically just full of that.
Okay. Well, that could be very interesting, right? To identify your target customers.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, I'll come back to you. In terms of Rushika, did you do try before you buy kind of thing? Because these are some of these products, I might want to come to your site, but I may not be sure whether I love it. Do you have any, did you experiment with that?
No, we don't have try before you buy, but what we did do quite extensively when we started out, so for the first year.
Sorry, I'll correct the question, sorry. Do you have a method for people to touch and feel? Where the products come home, right? Because you don't have a storefront and people are not coming out either. That's what I wanted to ask. My apologies.
No, yeah, so to answer that, we don't have any sort of initiative right now that does that. But what we did do for the first year and a half was we did a lot of road shows and exhibitions.
Okay.
So, we participated all across the country, from the likes of, Comic-Con in Bangalore to smaller exhibitions, targeting different demographics. And that was a great way for us to not just test the waters and understand our market, but it was a fantastic way for us to get customer feedback. And I think that gave us a lot of ammunition to then translate that into our online experience.
And what other steps you took to get the word out about your brand, other than events?
Right. So obviously all the the traditional channels of marketing. So digital marketing and performance marketing, all of that is the core of how we get our word out there. But what really worked for us outside of that is strategic cross collaboration with brands. So I've already worked with Bombay Shaving Company, so already worked with Siddha and hope to work with the rest of them as well. Cross collaboration has I think in my opinion worked quite well for us, associating with brands. And one of the major things that kind of turned around for us, and a young brand like us was only 3 years old, was that we were able to collaborate with Disney on a licensing deal. So we are now the second only brand in India licensed to do Disney jewelry. So that association came quite early on for us, and people suddenly took us more seriously. And when you're associated with the likes of someone like Disney, they hold you accountable to a certain standard of jewelry or production, I think that was also a great way for us to get the word out there.
And in terms of scaling international, there's a question for everyone, but I'll start with you. Just in terms of what are the blockers you think in terms of going international? So, yep.
So for us, I think definitely the number of SKUs is a problem, because when you're talking about clothing, you're talking about colors into sizes, and being size inclusive is quite important. So, any kind of demand estimation is quite tough.
So how many SKUs do you operate on today?
Around 600.
600, okay. And how many of them would be bestsellers? Don't tell me 600.
Definitely not. About 150, actually.
Okay, 120 you said?
150.
150, okay. So that's a decent number anyway. So,
but when it comes to going international, right, with clothing, the weather really matters.
Sure.
And therefore, it is difficult to estimate in that particular area the kind of weather that exists, and therefore what are the kind of SKUs that work. Currently, because we're based out of Bombay, we don't have too much winter wear. So, even looking at a lot of countries, we had an opportunity to, for example, exhibit in New York in October. And I'm like, I don't really have enough clothes for, New York in October, because I need to get more into the winter wear category. So even that, just what sells, what doesn't, that understanding takes some time.
Okay. Knowledge of the market and the costs associated with launching could be 2 items you mentioned. Is that fair?
Sure.
Jugal, do you want to add to that? What else are the blockers to sell international? Is your product suitable internationally?
Yeah, definitely.
Everybody is traveling internationally as well, I think, in the last 3 years.
It is a global product, right? And I've also always started the brand with the global keeping the global
Okay.
standards in mind.
So what are the blockers for you?
We had ran a few campaigns, especially in Europe and Middle East. So Middle East is not that much of an issue, but Europe and other Western countries, North American countries, it's mainly the compliance, customs, and duties aspect of it. That's see, my customers are okay with paying the almost the 3x equivalent of INR price, but they're not okay with paying additional duties, which actually comes as a surprise. Sometimes almost 5 out of 10 of my shipments would get stuck in customs, and they would demand some sort of duties to be paid on top. So most of the time we would end up paying, or it's a whole logistical issue with that.
Okay. Do you want to add to that? Is it in your plan, or do you?
Yeah, very much. In fact, we already have a bit of an international presence. We are present in Nepal, Sri Lanka, like the Indian diaspora subcontinent around, and then we are going into the Middle East. So like Jugal said, Middle East is easy in terms of the consumer because it's wherever the Indian diaspora is present, there is recall with the brand name, with the city name, etc. So there's a bit of romance to the country back. But yeah, the nuance of each area and their rules and regulations, if you want to list on e-com, if you're be present in offline stores and so on. So it's a complicated regulatory aspect, including Middle East from a non-consumer point of view. So there's a barrier in terms of the number of marketplaces that you would have to end up being listed on to be able to make it sustainable. For example, to avoid this customs angle, then I would say, for example, we have to list it on Amazon.com, and hence the aesthetic of, I'm giving an example of one marketplace, but the aesthetic of that platform and then what works in terms of the consumer needs there and marrying it with here becomes a bit of a complexity. So we did, for the men's business, also have a short stint in the US, but we realized that there's so much to do in the Indian setup right now that we'll focus on the Indian marketplaces, and then, once we gain enough learning, then we'll go over there.
So of course, that's always the challenge, right? Means you have a lot of opportunity in India.
Absolutely.
So do I look overseas, or am I missing out on 90% of the market? So
Yeah, I think
that's
focus,
also a catch.
focus and
there.
penetration is definitely key.
No, yeah, it is always a challenging question. See, I've seen this with big brands too, who, when I say, I'm not saying you're small by any stretch of imagination, but one of the challenges is they're growing at such a rapid pace in India that, hey, am I diluting my focus? So that's why.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So, but nevertheless, the pie is very big. And that's where I think, let me ask you, Pavan, what are the ways in which you can help the brands, right? So there are 4 brand owners sitting here. So in terms of, they're growing very fast. They're creating niches. But what can eBay do here? What are the different ways in which eBay can help? What are you seeing as trends? Do you think it's right for them to go global? And how can you make that easy for them?
Yeah, I think the first thing is there's no single answer. Each of the brands that we're talking about on the panel right now, I think every brand has its own specific characteristic. What is their ambition? What's the purpose? What do they really want to solve for? So that's really important when you're trying to answer the question of whether they should go international first, and if they do decide to go international, where should they go, into which market? I think these are 2 questions that we would like to first answer. And that's something that, as a platform, the advantage that we have is being able to look at a lot of data and trends across each of the markets and determine what really makes sense for a brand. So that's why I said the answer is probably not the same for everybody. There are certain categories where Indian products, Indian craftsmanship clearly stands out. Jewelry probably being one of those, which is pretty easy to say that we have a significant advantage as compared to anybody else who has this kind of product line. But when you talk about clothing, you've got to be more specific. What's the kind of clothing you're looking at? What's the price point you're looking at? And like she said, maybe clothing is not suited for certain weather conditions, right? And therefore, from a seasonality point of view, how does that play out? So there are, I think, a whole host of different variables. And when we look at brands or when we talk to brands, we need to assess that before kind of bringing them on board or asking them to look at international markets and scaling up. The good bit is, hearing all the founders here, they've spent a lot of time optimizing and getting their product right. I think that's a very, very big part before you decide to go international. Because when you go international, I think the consumer is a lot more discerning as compared to an Indian customer. And that can be difficult unless you get your product right. So first get your product right, which I'm pretty sure most of them have. And then I think it's up to us from an eBay point of view to be able to tell you what makes sense in which market. But having said that, that's just the starting point. I think some of the challenges that the panelists did mention, especially with having to move products across geographies, be it customs, duties, compliance, those are very, very real challenges. And that's what we work with our partners to try and solve for, right? The idea and the real reason that a marketplace enables these kind of transactions is because we have the kind of partners who are able to help us with being able to do this no matter which country you're selling into, whether it's from an advisory standpoint or whether it's from an operational standpoint. And when we look at brands that are selling in India today, which are D2C brands and probably doing almost 90% of your business on your own website, that doesn't hold true when you look at it internationally. It's going to be much harder to do that on your own website if you're trying to sell internationally. So I think access to those markets, the ability to operationally be able to get your product into the consumer's hand without hopefully having to pay duties at the last minute. I think those are the kind of challenges that we solve for as a platform. At the end of it, the reason that a platform, an open marketplace like eBay exists is to ensure that the transaction between the buyer and the seller is a complete trusted transaction, right? It's obviously a different experience as compared to what the buyer might have domestically on their website, but nonetheless, this enables the brands to get an understanding of the market that they are shipping into. And over a period of time, they themselves are going to have enough information about that market to probably bring out product lines that are more specific to those markets. So I would say that as a starting point, you've got to start with what product, and then operationally, how do you actually manage the entire cross-border transaction? And that's where, wherever we have the ability, and in most countries we can, at least in the major markets, we would be able to support the partners on that.
I think there are two other aspects here, right? One is the cost of the logistics. And also from an SLA point of view, you don't want the products to take a long time to reach the customer because it affects the experience as well. And third is the thing, what you pointed out in terms of duties, etc., coming as a surprise. Of course, we need to address these aspects. So in terms of the product itself, I think there are some easy solutions there where you're looking at a consignment going into the market and trying to address it from locally, almost playing like a local player. I think that's the extent of risk you take is the question there. But if you can address that in terms of working capital and what you're wanting to do, there are various interesting products in the market, startups which are solving this problem to give the line of credit to be able to get your consignment out into the market. I think those can get you into the target market. To your question, Pallavi, I think again, there are markets where the products fit, right? It is whether it's the easiest thing to think about which market will my products fit, right? Then of course you have to go into understanding the price point at which it can, if you're looking at the product cost plus logistics equal to, is there the market for you?
I think just to add on to Venkat's point, I think when you talk about cost of logistics, and we were talking before we came on with regard to the cost, when a brand looks at shipping a product from India on their own, it can sometimes be an expensive proposition. And depending on the price point you're operating at, it can be extremely challenging. What we do is also to say that, hey, we understand that anybody who's sending a shipment or a product out of India is going to be constrained with the kind of volume pricing that they will get. Aggregating that kind of volume, being able to offer pricing through our partners that enables you to be cost efficient, more relevant and competitive in those markets. I think that's also part of what needs to be done. It's an entire ecosystem play, like you said, Venkat. It's not I don't think it's a single player who can solve for all the problems, and it's putting all of this together that's going to make a difference to see how much the contribution of cross-border trade that Indian brands can look at. The market is out there. The opportunity is very, very real. Like I said earlier, while we're looking at a 100 billion market addressable in India, it's already hit 100 billion in the US or in UK in terms of actual sales. So the opportunity size is massive. Figuring out the ecosystem play, working with the right platform, the right players, I think that's what the brands have got to focus on.
And yeah, means I think each of the points there, right, means A, you got to plan for the logistics. B, you got to identify, obviously first step is identify the markets which make sense and the price points which make sense, and identify how you will do the logistics. Then you have to answer the question of returns. If you're having a partner like eBay, or if you have a local play, in a way, you're solving a lot of these questions because compliance will be taken care. Then you know the price points, right? You will get a nice little summary analysis saying that this is basically, for this market, this is the price points at which you can sell, kind of thing. And the returns also, you do need an ecosystem and partner to be able to clear it out, particularly regulatory reasons as well, right? Within 6 months, you have to turn the money around if you're an Indian company. So those are some questions for you to think. But each one of these, some brands are solving very beautifully, right? So there's a huge opportunity out there. And I would say India is still possibly sitting at less than 1% of what it can do in the next 2 years. It can actually be 100x outside India. So there is a genuine opportunity for each of you there. And we are seeing it with our customers. So which is also, I'm talking with real data here as well, right? So I'm seeing some of our brands really using both the platform and the ecosystem to go international into different markets. Let's go back. Yeah, no, I had broadly, those were the questions. Do you want to add anything else, Pawan?
No, I think I probably would have a question for all the panelists is, when you're looking at international markets, what's the objective as a brand when you want to look at an international market? Is it just scale? Is it because you want to test the waters before you launch your brand in those markets? What's really the objective, and how are you looking at it short term, long term?
Yeah, go for it. Anyone, Siddha, yeah.
I think the objective is at 3 levels. One is the objective for the brand. So if our vision is bringing expertise in hair removal, does that market need that expertise, and can we offer significant incrementality to what their current say regimen is, right? That is one. So being able to truly solve a problem that is a consumer need over there is one. Second is being able to, we pride ourselves in like really romancing the process of hair removal, etc. So second is, can I take the brand mandate and make it global in a way that it remains consistent, it speaks the same story, and it moves our consumers in the same manner, and hence is a natural extension to what we want to achieve internally. So that's why our natural mandate is from India to go to then the Middle East, so wherever the Indian diaspora is or wherever the salience of these products remain, right? And then the third is, of course, meaningfully scaling to an extent that we use learnings from that and bring it back into our own innovation and improve the experience for the market that we were born out of. I think these are the 3 priorities for us as a brand.
So, Jugal, in your case, you're not thinking just Indian diaspora, right?
Yeah.
It could be
Yeah,
any
so
traveler.
for me, it's the brand message is simple, right? Just adapt a eco-friendly lifestyle.
It's a
So-
quirky question for you. Will you be the Bombay trooper everywhere, or will you be the Jakarta trooper? Will you become
No,
the...
no, no. It's Bombay trooper everywhere, right? That's
Okay.
you don't leave your roots.
Fair enough. I'm just asking in terms of
Yeah, so
local impact. Okay.
one is the brand message, right? The wider we spread it, the better for everyone, to contribute their little bit to the planet. And second, obviously, it's a business, so it's more money for me. Like I said, the experiments we ran in Western countries, we were able to get sales for almost 3x the INR equivalent. And when you're manufacturing in INR and selling in USDs and euros, that forex gap is definitely that could, it shows in your margins. So a product that we sell here for 3,000 rupees, people are willing to pay up to $200 in Western countries, right? So that, and once that happens and once we have a global presence, the brand equity rises with which, maybe I could start adding a little premium to Indian consumers as well. So that's my approach and objective behind going global.
So if I had to add to that, I think I would echo what Siddha said, I love what she said, that I think it's not just about scaling the brand, it's also about that opportunity that exists in the new market. So for example, for jewelry, US is a huge market, and it's just being able to, take our design philosophy and then apply it in that market and see how, how the people resonate with it. I think that's exciting. And I think it's also, I think the way we look at it is, it's not just about, and taking an Indian product and taking it globally. It's about the fact that we're making a global product here in India, and now we're bringing it to you in a different market. So I think that's how we look at it.
So, do you see size, color, etc., in terms of product design also being critical parameters, Pallavi? I'm moving to Pallavi, yeah. Sorry, definitely not jewelry, please, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I think, when you're talking about sizes especially, we've actually done our sizes according to the Indian market. And so, our clothes are slightly shorter. And, we have actually done some studies on the kind of body types in India, and we've actually made clothes like that. So when we are talking about expansion, to international markets, how do you really figure out those sizes? And, there is a different need for different kinds of sizes, especially when you're talking about the US or if you're talking about the Middle East. So yeah, definitely, I think that ends up being quite important. And even with colors, we have a lot of Indian colors. We like our bright colors. We,
I meant color from the perspective of each country has its own nuances as well, right? So, you go and, a green may not work in some places, a red is very important in some places like that, yeah. So,
absolutely.
I think that's a critical parameter too. Now, going back to the earlier point, right, the SLAs of delivery, also certain markets, we can't solve everything in this 45 minutes, but if you look at Middle East, I think locally being present is very critical because SLAs are very tight. You can't actually try and ship from India. Maybe for some categories, but bulk of it is very difficult, right? But it may not be the same in other markets. So you got to, those parameters also play in your strategy. I think step one is the product design. Step two is which channels to sell, whether it's your own or whether it is marketplaces, and how do you work with partners. So those are some of the thoughts I would leave the audience with, and then open it up for questions. I think they can, when we got a great panel here, I would request each of you to delve into their experience and ask some questions which will help you to either scale your brand or to, start off one.
Hi, I'm Umesh. I'm from Orga Life. I want to know how I grow my organic food business through eBay or in kind of this out of India.
Yeah, I think when it comes to food, Definitely one of the areas that need to be looked at very specifically is going to be compliance. Certifications and compliance, especially when you're looking at markets, whether it's North America, Europe, extremely important to get that right. Of course, we'll have to understand what are the products that you make, but I would say that's the first thing that I would want to focus on. Then the second step being which markets, what product. But I definitely think that for Indian brands, more and more of what I see from, especially from the D2C brands, they're very aware of the fact that it's extremely important to have the certifications in place. It's also something that you see in a lot of the packaging. So from that point of view, it's a great opportunity to extend that and be able to do that right at the beginning when you're thinking of your product, and then make sure that you're actually ready for international markets at a very early stage. So I would say that's where I would start. But yeah, we could always discuss more in detail, specifically looking at your products. And the eBay team is also around, so we can have that discussion.
One more question.
Yeah, sure.
eBay is something planning for in grocery market in India, like Amazon and all?
No, we don't operate in India, so our focus is purely cross-border trade. We don't do anything domestic.
Thank you.
So if you want to be in grocery, there are many options, yeah.
Yeah.
So, any other
Especially if you
question?
want to do 10-minute delivery now.
Yeah, no way.
Hi everyone, I'm Kunjal Thakkar from PwC. My question to all of you, anyone can answer this one, is since you are selling mostly online, there's very less in-person or proper interaction with your end users or consumers. So what are the methodologies or tools that you're using to really get the consumer insights of what is it that they want from a brand like you, understand the consumer behavior?
Sorry, I didn't get a question. Are you talking about how do I get demographics, data on my consumers?
Yeah, more on their behavior, their buying patterns. Are you using any methodologies or tools to really talk to them and get to know them?
Got it. So the bunch of tools are already available, right? Something as basic as Google Analytics can also tell you where your traffic is coming from, what kind of city has what kind of purchasing power, and
Sorry, just actually I'm not looking more at the numbers bit because that's more like data. It's more about their behavior, their motivation, their challenges. What is it that they really need from a brand like this? So understanding them as like the personas that you might have who are buying from you.
Qualitative, basically,
Yeah,
not quantitative.
not really quantitative.
I think I have a different answer than everyone. I just go by what I feel I should put out there in the market and see if it clicks. So it's
So
not relevant for me.
just to intercept, sorry, just sharing a personal experience of our brand. We are a really young brand, so what we've started doing recently is we actually do a calling activity where we call every customer and we get their feedback, and that's actually helped us quite a bit because when it comes to jewelry, touch and feel obviously is eliminated from the online bit. So, being able to have a conversation with them works wonders. I know it's a very traditional approach, but it works really well for us. I don't know if that answered your question.
For us, we use Instagram actually. We've never really been able to look into people's lives and their homes, right? And now we have access to all these customers and, we actually follow them back, right? And we figure out if this is our co-customer and then we have a whole cohort over there and then we study their behaviors, right? And we try and see what else they're interested in. And that's how we do that. And of course, we also do personal calling and, community building activities like that. Yeah.
If I were to add to that, so the way we define insight is twofold. One is pre-launch and then is post-launch. So in the pre-launch phase, we have a very strongly routed consumer insight as a team, which does focus group discussions and really understands the need of the consumer. Let's say on the past 6-7 times they would have removed hair. So there's two parts to it. One is see trends at a macro level, which is top down, and then bottom up build, what that trend and an hypothesis from the top down, right? If you see that, say this type of hair removal of this ingredient is picking up, then you go bottom up and find out that within that subcategory, what is it that the consumer is really facing. For example, if there is a mass brand that provides a particular offering, what are the exact pain points that you have with that. And then we go in with a razor sharp brief as to these are the exact 3 pain points we want to solve. We formulate the product, we test it, and then we launch. And post launch, we test if the ambition of what we wanted to launch is it as needle moving to change behavior, and then bring it back into the production process. So this is the pre-launch part of it, and of course post-launch, all of these in addition to reviews and ratings. We do a lot of scrolling through all of our product reviews, be it on different channels, our own D2C, what our customer care center gets, and really take it together.
In the case of Pallavi and Jugal, possibly you yourself are the target customer, right? Because you know what problems you're facing in trying to find customer products that you like, and that's the reason why you're in business, right? So that's the qualitative bit, I would think, and from there it's all quantitative, right? Do you guys, if I come back to you, Rishika, do you use influencers?
Yeah, we do use influencers, and I think that plays a huge, it's a huge part of our marketing. So micro influencers work really well for us, you know, especially when we're tapping into the tier 2 cities that, you know, I was mentioning earlier. So yeah, we absolutely work.
Fair enough. Sorry, I mean, I was just again adding to that question since.
So just coming in a bit, I think on a lot of the platforms, while I know that as you know individual D2C brands, it's a lot harder to do, but I think on marketplaces, one thing that I can probably say is there's a lot of buyer-seller interaction, and a lot of that data does help understand qualitatively if something is going wrong, and that's something that we do use even from a platform perspective. So I think there's an opportunity to look at stuff that's beyond quantitative as well.
Exactly. From a marketplace, of course, you have a lot of data, and we sit on a lot of data too in terms of understanding what is moving and where it's moving. So, but again, but yeah, I think it boils down to quantitative still. It comes back to quantitative. So I hope we answered your question. Yeah.
Hi, this is Rajshri. Adding to the conversation that Rishika mentioned, I actually would like to know what percentage or approximately what percentage of your advertising and marketing spends are dedicated to influencer marketing. Because we've seen a paradigm shift in influencer marketing in the last 2 years, especially during the pandemic. So what is the allocated budgets that you all generally have for influencer marketing?
That's a great question. I think our spend would not be more than anywhere but more than 5% of our overall spend. So it's a very small percentage of our overall advertising and marketing spend. And the reason is, like you said, you know, there's a shift in marketing. And what I feel is the micro influencer bit works, you know, better than, you know, just your all-out mass influencing. So for example, you know, our collaboration with Disney, you know, we worked with a bunch of mom influencers, as they're called, and in that we were able to tap into that specific niche segment. And I think taking that very niche approach is what works when it comes to influencer advertising.
And I would also like to know from other speakers that how much, because it's a product, all of you all have a product that can be, you know, leveraged through influencers.
So currently we haven't done any influencer marketing yet, but I think this year we're definitely looking to do it a little bit more. And I think like she was saying, micro influencers are very interesting, especially when you're looking at non-metro markets. So yeah, this year is the year of influencers for us.
Probably same for me as well. I feel like paid influencer marketing is still a big brand's hobby. And I call it hobby because, you know, there's no performance metrics. It's something as archaic as a billboard advertising. You don't know if it's working or not, but budget hai to de do. For someone like us, micro influencers definitely work. We just, do a basic barter in terms of, I'll give you products, you give me content, and that's what keeps my Instagram running. So as such, not any significant budget.
Yeah, I think possibly stages, but that's what I expected as well. Yeah. Maybe same for you, or yeah.
It's a bit different because of the trajectory, especially for the men's business. We are 5 years
and you've
old.
Been there for a long time too.
Yeah. So we have a two-pronged approach. We have the macro route which will be a specific frequency every month or so, but it will always be balanced with the barter micro-influencer route to reinforce and reiterate the message that someone's hearing from someone that is almost endorsing the product versus someone who's really experiencing and is delighted in the product. So it's a two-pronged strategy. We like to be very careful and mindful of who we partner with in terms of influencers. So we do a lot of thorough research on whether the vibe, whether the content they create is aligned with what we want to say, whether they believe in the same things that we do. So we have that filter. But yeah, it's a two-pronged balanced approach. It's nuanced though, I agree. It's difficult to quantify and hence it's a top of funnel investment in a way, right? So it has to gestate in the long term.
So now, yeah, I mean, I think depends on the category, right? But from a Vinclum perspective, we actually power marketplaces like Trell, which is heavily into influencers. From memory, Woovly, Mistry, Smitten. So all of them are heavily into different categories. But yeah, means my natural expectation was Rushika would be using a lot of influencers. But yeah, the percentages I think varies quite a bit between category. I don't know if you can fix the percentage so easily.
Yeah, it really varies. And another thing I would like to add is I think what's more interesting is using your customer as your ambassador today, because the definition of an influencer is so broad in today's world. Anyone with an Instagram account today is an influencer of your product, and it also goes back to the question that was asked earlier. Anyone that's buying our jewelry or has our product in a way has the ability to influence the audience today. So I think instead of investing towards influencers, it's probably more beneficial for any brand to use their customers as as an ambassador for their product.
Absolutely. And to add to Rushika, assuming a lot of our audience is primarily women, is women talk in their so everyone influences their WhatsApp group, for example, right? Everyone would have at least a 10, 20 people WhatsApp group who would be so there'll always be an early adopter of a trend. For example, there's a menstrual cup, there'll be an early adopter. And then they would, if they believe in it, they'll convince their cohort and the women that are, their tribe to try it out. So that is the primary. So if the product wins, you win the consumer. Women talk to each other a lot about these things. So it makes a big difference.
Well, I definitely know of a tea brand which does that very effectively. So one last question if we're starting to run out of time, or we are good. Anyone? Last question for the panel?
Hi, I have a question for Siddha. So, shaving is an activity, which men have been engaging for since eternity, for thousands and hundreds of years. So, why do you think that traditional shaving companies or razor companies have not been able to solve the problems that you are solving for? And how difficult or easy it is to change the behavior that you're talking about, right? Like you're associating the whole romancing, aspect to it. So how difficult or easy it is actually?
Absolutely,
So there are
and
two parts
that's a
of the
very
question.
good question. I
Thanks.
missed your name though.
I'm Prasenjit. I'm from the eBay team.
Okay, awesome. So very passionate. All of us at Bombay Shaving Company are very passionate about this question. I think the one big thing that very large incumbents in hair removal especially are not able to do is that they are global, right? So the ability to be agile and really change, it requires so many levels of change that by that time we've already launched that product, tested it out, 3 महीने में अगर नहीं चला तो वापस भी ले आए. That is the speed at which we're talking, right? So that is one. Second is, you're right, it's so habit forming. For example, when we did the single blade, we did experiments with 50 men of our target audience, half face with the existing player, half face with our blade. And then we over 15, 20 trials, we asked them to test. So there are many behaviors that are very unique to the Indian market. For example, globally, when do you shave? Do you shave before shower or after shower?
Before shower, over
Before
the
shower,
weekend.
right? Most men in India shave before shower.
Yeah.
Although the right way to shave is after shower. So you first let your pores open up, then you use the foam.
That's
then
one
you
more
rinse.
life skill gone.
Yeah, and then you close the pores. So we realized that this is such a big problem in India that we had to create the regimen that first you scrub so that you open the pores even if you've had the shower. So there's a lot of insight that has gone into it, so a lot of education with it as well. But you are right, habit changes. But what we've believed in is that micro innovations will help solve the problem. So one is this regimen building. The other thing we continue to do is, for example, foams have been in a red-blue can for 150 years now. You think foam, you will think either a red can or blue can, something like that. We added ingredients because the nostrils are the closest to the foam for men. So if you increase sensorial there is where it hits the impact, right? And there's where you bring the romance. So romance is not just in the big thing, but in the small thing that you do into the product, and that's how we change behavior. So that's what we've been doing.
Anyway, so I think we're run out of time. Thanks, Siddha,
Thank
and
you.
thanks the panelists. See, on that, right, all D2C brands are disrupting everything anyway. So that you can put it for any category, saying why can't the traditional company do it? But the fact is, even traditional companies are trying. They're trying to digitally transform. But that's where all D2C brands set the tone. Okay, thank you. Thank you to the panel, all the panelists. And thank you to the audience.